Let's go Ravens! Something very interesting is happening behind the scenes in Baltimore right now. In recent seasons, we've seen flashes of genius, moments that made all Ravens fans believe we were witnessing the emergence of a special weapon for Lamar Jackson. But at the same time, we've also seen long periods of silence that left fans wondering what really happened and if that potential will ever fully explode in this offense. Right now, with the arrival of a new coaching staff and a completely new offensive vision beginning to take shape, there's a big question echoing through the Ravens community. Is this finally the moment when everything falls into place? But before we dive into everything I'm hearing and everything that might happen next, be sure to like this post right now if you truly believe the Baltimore Ravens will come back stronger this season. And if you're confident this team can go far, head over to the comments and write, "Go Ravens! In 2026, we will rise again." Let's see how many true Ravens fans are watching this video right now. Now let's talk about what's really going on here. When Rashad Bateman first arrived in Baltimore, the excitement was real. His college film showed a receiver who could run the entire route tree, create separation, catch difficult passes, and generate yards after the catch. In other words, he looked like the complete package. Many fans immediately imagined him developing strong chemistry with Lamar Jackson and becoming a centerpiece in the Ravens' passing attack. And to be fair, early flashes showed exactly why people were so excited. Even during his rookie season, there were moments where you could clearly see the potential. But the biggest issue throughout Bateman's career has been consistency. There have been games where he looks explosive, sharp, and capable of dominating coverage. And then suddenly, he disappears for multiple weeks. That inconsistency has puzzled fans and analysts alike. Why can he deliver a strong performance in one game and then become nearly invisible in the next three? It's a question that has followed him throughout his time in Baltimore. If you go back to the end of the 2024 season, things actually looked very promising. Bateman finished that stretch strong, producing touchdowns and showing the kind of separation that made people believe a breakout year was coming. Many within the Ravens community expected 2025 to be the season where he truly elevated his production. Some even believed he could push toward a 1,200-yard season based on the way he ended the previous year. But then 2025 arrived, and things went in the opposite direction. Week after week, Bateman remained quiet. At first, fans assumed it was just a slow start. One game without impact isn't unusual. 2 games? Still manageable. But as the season continued, the production never really came. Meanwhile, the Ravens offense had many mouths to feed. With Zay Flowers emerging, DeAndre Hopkins added to the receiving group, Mark and likely involved in the passing attack, and Derrick Henry dominating on the ground after a massive rushing season, Bateman slowly became the odd man out in the offense. And that's where things get complicated. Some observers believe the heavy focus on the run game and the crowded target distribution made it difficult for Bateman to stay involved. Others believe the problem became mental. When opportunities didn't come early in the season, it appeared that his energy and effort began to decline. There were even moments where people questioned whether he was finishing routes with the same intensity as before. For a wide receiver whose job depends on rhythm and confidence, that kind of frustration can quickly spiral. But now everything has changed in Baltimore. John Harbaugh is no longer the head coach, and a completely new regime is taking over. Jesse Minter steps in as head coach, while Declan Doyle takes responsibility for running the offense. And when a new coaching staff arrives, it usually means one important thing for players fighting to revive their careers: a clean slate. Coaches will still watch the film and analyze past performance, but they also want to evaluate players with fresh eyes and see what they can do within the new system. That could be exactly the opportunity Rashad Bateman needs. There's a belief that in a more timing-based passing system, Bateman could become extremely useful. He has already shown he can win off the line of scrimmage and execute precise routes like curls, comebacks, and quick outs. If he becomes one of the first or second reads in certain passing concepts, he could help open the offense while defenses focus on stopping Zay Flowers and the Ravens' rushing attack. The reality is simple. This upcoming season could be the most important of Bateman's career in Baltimore. If he produces around 800 or 900 yards and becomes a reliable contributor, he could solidify his role moving forward. But if the struggles continue, this might be his final opportunity with the Ravens. And that's the big question hanging over this roster right now. With a new coaching staff, a new offensive vision, and a quarterback like Lamar Jackson still leading the team, could this be the moment Rashad Bateman finally resets his career and becomes the weapon Baltimore hoped for when they drafted him? Or are we watching the final chapter of his time with the Ravens unfold? And this is where things get even more interesting for the Baltimore Ravens moving forward. Because if Rashad Bateman truly gets this clean slate under the new coaching regime, the pressure will be very real from day one. The new staff, led by head coach Jesse Minter and offensive coordinator Declan Doyle, will evaluate every player through the lens of their new system. That means opportunities will be available, but only for players who prove they can execute consistently and bring real value to the offense. When you break down Bateman's skill set, there are still reasons to believe he can contribute in a meaningful way. He has already shown the ability to win at the line of scrimmage, create separation, and execute precise routes when he's fully locked in. That type of receiver can be extremely valuable in a timing-based offense. If the Ravens begin incorporating more structured passing concepts, quick outs, curls, play-action routes, and sideline throws, Bateman could suddenly find himself much more involved in the progression reads. Think about the defensive attention that will already exist when the Ravens step onto the field. Defenses will naturally be focused on stopping Zay Flowers because of his explosive playmaking ability. They'll also have to respect the run game, especially with Derrick Henry's production forcing teams to load the box. And of course, tight ends like Lamar can likely continue to be major factors in the passing attack. With all that attention elsewhere, Bateman could quietly become a very important secondary option in the offense. The key, however, will be how Bateman approaches this season mentally. Last year raised concerns about effort and confidence when the ball wasn't coming his way early in games. Wide receivers live off rhythm and involvement. When targets disappear, frustration can creep in quickly. But the new coaching staff will be watching closely to see how he responds to adversity. They'll want to see a receiver who keeps running routes hard, who stays engaged in the offense, and who proves he's ready to earn his opportunities instead of waiting for them. And there's another reality Bateman has to face. Competition inside the receiver room is not going away. Younger players are developing, and the Ravens have never been afraid to move forward with whoever proves most reliable on the field. If Bateman wants to keep his role in Baltimore, he'll need to show that he can consistently produce and help relieve pressure from the other weapons in the offense. Many inside the Ravens community believe a realistic expectation would be around 800 to 900 receiving yards with steady production throughout the season. That might not be superstar numbers, but it would prove that Bateman can be a dependable piece of the offensive puzzle. And honestly, if he reaches that level of production, the Ravens offense could become even more dangerous because defenses wouldn't be able to focus exclusively on Flowers, the run game, and the tight ends. Another factor working in Bateman's favor is the motivation that often comes with a coaching change. When a new staff arrives, players know every practice rep matters again. Old reputations don't guarantee anything, and new impressions can completely reshape a player's role. For Bateman, this is essentially an opportunity to reintroduce himself to the organization and prove that the player who flashed at the end of the 2024 season is still there. And if that version of Bateman shows up consistently, the Ravens offense could unlock another dimension. A reliable outside receiver who can win early in the route would make Lamar Jackson's job easier, stretch defenses horizontally and vertically, and open even more space for the run game and play-action attack. But if that version of Bateman doesn't appear, then this conversation might look very different a year from now. Because the truth is, this upcoming season feels like a turning point. It's either the year Rashad Bateman finally establishes himself as a long-term piece of the Ravens offense, or it becomes the moment when Baltimore starts looking toward other options at the position. But here's where the story becomes even more fascinating for the Baltimore Ravens moving forward. Because when a franchise goes through a coaching change, it doesn't just affect playbooks or schemes, it resets careers. Players who once felt stuck suddenly have a new chance to prove themselves again. Coaches arrive with fresh evaluations, new expectations, and sometimes completely different ideas about how a player should be used within the offense. And for Rashad Bateman, this moment could be the turning point that defines the rest of his career in Baltimore. The truth is, the talent has never really been the question. From the moment the Ravens drafted him, Bateman showed the traits that teams look for in a high-level receiver: route running, separation ability, speed, and the capacity to create plays after the catch. Those flashes were visible early on, and they reminded fans why the organization believed he could become a key target for Lamar Jackson. But in the NFL, potential alone is never enough. What separates good players from reliable starters is consistency. Week after week, route after route, play after play. And that's exactly where Bateman has struggled to fully establish himself. There were moments where it looked like he was ready to take that next step, especially toward the end of the 2024 season, when his production started climbing and he began finding the end zone more often. That stretch created real optimism heading into the following year, with many believing Bateman could finally emerge as one of the Ravens' primary receivers. But the 2025 season didn't unfold the way many expected. The Ravens' offense became crowded with playmakers.